This is Dave.
And this is Mike.
So today we are coming at you from Montreal doing our first live video EcomCrew podcast. We'll be putting this up on our YouTube channel. If you're listening on the podcast on your phone, in your car, wherever you are, you can actually go to YouTube and see me and Mike live on video if you so are inclined. Today we are talking about Mike's Amazon launch sequence. So we're actually going to go through a checklist of all the things that Mike goes through when he's launching a product and trying to get a bestseller on Amazon. We're going to talk about Shopify and launching on other channels too a little bit at the end, but really the focus of this is launching a product and getting it to a new bestseller on Amazon. Maybe if not a new bestseller, at least getting that initial traction so it will actually have some stability and get some real sales in the beginning.
Yep, and I think the important key here is that this is all white hat tactics. I mean, give me some background on this. I mean, back in 2015 or so when I first started getting involved with Amazon, it was so easy. And I fell into the same trap of doing, I guess, what's considered black hat. But it seemed like it was what everyone was doing at the time, which was giving away a product for 99% off in exchange for an honest review. And it really worked. I mean, you could give away 5 or 10 units per day or whatever it was at the time, depending on the product. And it would just shoot to the top of the rankings. You do that until you had the rankings, and you would just kind of slowly wean off of that, and it would continue to do well from there. I think that it worked well for us because we also had the benefit, even in the beginning, of having high quality products. So I think that once we kind of got to the top, we stayed there because we did get legitimately good reviews and a low return rate and some of the other metrics that Amazon looks at. But once Amazon got rid of the incentivized review concept, I really had to kind of go back and think things through and make sure that we were going to be doing something that was going to work long term and wasn't like the gimmick of today. So that's how this whole process came to be.
Yeah, and it's funny, while we've been in Montreal here, we've been kind of talking back and forth just off camera about how Amazon really feels like it's kind of Google of 10 years ago where everything black hat, that's the only way to rank. Google used to rank not necessarily the best content, 1, 2, and 3. It would just rank the content that has kind of gained Google the best. Amazon feels like that a little bit right now, but I think Mike and I, we've kind of shown, at least with our brands, that, there's a lot of black hat tactics, but there are some legitimate white hat ways to go about this. It might take a little bit longer. It might not get the immediate results that launching to some review launch club will get, but the sales are more sustainable. It's a long-term business. And that's ultimately what I think both of us are trying to do is create businesses, not necessarily a bunch of money today in August, and then come September, October, our accounts are banned. So like Mike has talked about, these are all kind of white hat strategies, which are going to help you build a business, not just some fly-by-night product that's going to be gone in a month or two.
Yeah, I mean, the way I approach it is basically like if I was a fly on the wall at Amazon headquarters, what do they really want? Like, what is their ultimate goal? And it's, to have the best products rank high. Same thing with Google. I mean, all the years I think back to like the time I wasted trying to buy links or do some of the things that were gray hat or black hat, even though they worked, I would have been way better off from the very beginning just doing what Google's main objective is, which is to write like the best content about that topic. And even back before when you could buy links and all that stuff, it still was easier to rank if you just did really good SEO by putting out the best piece of content. So it's the same thing with this now, where we're trying to put out the best product, and not. I mean, listen, if you're using a URL, like one of these super URLs that like inserts a timestamp and keywords in there, like what you're doing, like you're gaming the system, and if you get your account shut down, like you have no one to blame but yourself. I mean, Amazon's going to do something about this stuff eventually because they have to. It's like in their best interest to stop these games from taking place because people are getting products that shouldn't really rank up there, that aren't as good as some of the other products. And it's something eventually Amazon's going to be forced to do something about. And I think they're going to do it in a very public way by shutting a bunch of accounts down and scaring the living crap out of people. And I just don't want to go through that.
Yeah. And something Amazon's mentioned is that when they do go through these kind of sweeps of sellers, they don't do it kind of one here, one there, and a couple there. What they're going to do is they're monitoring these people right now, and it's almost like catching a local drug dealer in your town. They don't just go after the one guy and then let all the other kind of henchmen run away. No, they swoop everybody up in one swoop and then kick everybody off at once. So that's what will probably happen. Yeah, you're not seeing people getting suspended for these tactics right now, but it could just be that Amazon has their eye on them, and one day it's going to be a day of reckoning, and they're going to kick off thousands of people.
I agree.
Yep.
So let's dig into the whole process here.
Sure. So I think we're going to break this down into 3 phases. We're going to talk about kind of what you do before your products are even live on Amazon, preparing your listing for it. Step 2, when your products, now you have them and you're ready to go live and getting that initial traction. And then I guess step 3 is what to do kind of after that initial launch phase on Amazon, how to keep that traction up, and how also to market on other channels if you are marketing on other channels, whether it's Shopify or eBay or wherever.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it.
Okay. So what's the first thing you do? You've got a brand new product. All the development's done at this point.
Okay.
What's the first thing that you're doing, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing is to build that perfect listing. And this is something that's changed over time for us, because when we first started selling stuff on Amazon, my attitude was like, let's just get the thing up there. We'll worry about perfecting the listing later, because it's more important just to get the thing up for sale. Like, it's in our warehouse. We want to get the thing up and running. But what I've determined over time is that Amazon has a rolling moving average that they're looking at as far as like tabulating sales. And once you produce bad data for them, and bad data by meaning like you're producing inadequate results, basically, or subpar results, as far as you're selling like 2 units per day, you establish that 2 units per day over a 20-day period where you're kind of getting your act together. Now, when you try to get to 5 per day or 10 per day, it's not moving that moving average at all. Like, it's, because like if you have 30 days of data selling 2 per day, or 20 days, whatever it is, and now you have 1 day of selling 10, your rolling moving average is like 2.1 or 2.05 or something insignificant. And the reason that's important is because they're looking at your average of sales per day to help with organic rankings. And you want to, if you're going to move your listing up in organic rankings, you have to be able to sustain sales for a long period of time. And if you've already established subpar data, it's going to take a much longer period of time to kind of get out of that hole than if you launch with a bang to start with. So the first step is to create like a really high quality listing from day one, which means a really great title that's researched well with a blend of keywords that we want to rank for. And this is a bit of a nuance. And I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time here on this podcast talking about it, but just a little bit of a nuance here. People sometimes go too aggressively for like a big keyword, especially when you're trying to launch a brand new product. That's really, really difficult to do. So we're balancing some long tail stuff in there and trying to rank for things that we actually legitimately have a chance of being number one for, or certainly at the top of the first page for. So we're going to be looking at things that might not be like that home run, especially out of the gate. And the other thing that's really important is you don't want the title to read like a keyword stuffing mechanism. Like, you want something that is going to get people to want to click through your listing. Remember, like when someone does a search, they search for a widget on Amazon, there's only 2 small things that they see before they actually get to your listing page. And that's your title and your main image. So those 2 things are incredibly important. And if you stuff that title with a bunch of crap and it ends up going like ... you're not going to get the click through that you need. So balancing that title out is really important to us. And then spending a lot of time creating really high quality photography is the other part of that. So not only the main image, but the images on the inside, producing like really high quality infographics that have like lines pointing to particular features, or a bulleted list of features, things that make us better than others, a comparison table of us versus other products, a sizing chart if necessary. Obviously, every product's a little bit different, but really investing the time in creating that really great listing with the photography, the title, and then also enhanced brand content. So that's like the first step.
Yeah. And so with titles, just a quick question. How many keywords are you targeting?
It's typically no more than 3, a lot of times 2. Like, you really got to be careful. Again, I mean, very quickly you're going to run out of space, and it's going to go ... And also, with a lot of categories, Amazon's been really limiting the number of characters. With some of our healthcare products, they're now limiting, I think it's 50 characters. And you also need to have your brand name in there as a part of that. So like now you're really down to like 10. So you're really being forced to have fewer characters in there, which I actually think is good. Like I think it's going to help the platform personally by focusing on the things that are really important. And yeah, so we try to limit it to like basically 2 or 3 keywords.
Yeah. So I guess the key takeaway, 2 or 3 keywords. If you have 180 characters, which for a lot of listings Amazon still does,
Right.
Don't just deliberately use up those 180 keywords trying to rank for every term, because hopefully Amazon's smart enough to figure out what your keywords are without putting them in the title, and B, it just does not help with your click-through ratios because it's confusing people. It's not a easy to read title. Okay, so, and then, you got your listing. Your listing is perfect. You got great photos. You got a great title. Your EBC, your enhanced brand content, if you're eligible, is up there. What else are you doing, like, in terms of advertising and getting your campaigns up and going?
Well, before we even get the campaigns up and going, one of the things that's really important that I want to mention at this juncture is the start selling date. So what we do when we create that listing is we put the start selling date in the future, like way in the future, months in the future, to make sure that Amazon isn't starting that counter prematurely on us. We want to be able to like start the counter on the day that we choose, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. Start the counter on the day that we choose and be able to sustain sales over a 10 to 15 day period through the launch sequence timing and not have any bad data accumulating on us. So I just want to mention that real quickly. But once that's done, to kind of get back to your other point real quick, we will set up all of our PPC in advance because like PPC will not run until there's inventory in stock for the item. So you want to have as much stuff done in advance. Like it's not good to be rushing at the last second to do everything, which is certainly the way that a lot of things in our company work for a long time. Now we try to have everything in Basecamp and we have a checklist, much like the one that Dave's going through right now, and everything gets done in advance. And one of those things is PPC. Another thing would be to have all of our Facebook ads ready to go as well. So we make sure that we have all the assets for that ready. And as a part of that, we produce a video that is going to be of the product that we'll use in enhanced brand content and as a Facebook ad and on a landing page. So we have that done in advance as well.
So a question on that. Okay, your product is not yet live on Amazon. How are you doing the video for the product? Are you having an air shipped from China beforehand?
Yeah, so that's something else we kind of figured out. You look at that bill to have it air shipped, and it's just like, oh my God, it's like a couple $100 to have this stuff air shipped over here. But time is worth more money than anything when you start looking at storage fees and the capital you have tied up, and that's another whole podcast. But like every week that you hold inventory can be adding 5 or 10% to your cash flow in a negative way, putting you in the hole. So what we do actually is we'll air ship over here like a dozen units. 10 of which we use for influencers, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But in advance, we're getting that stuff air shipped over here, and we'll get 10 units of our product in YouTube influencers' hands so they can review the product and be ready to help us with this launch sequence as well. And then we also have one product that we have in our office in California, and then a lot of you know that we have an office in the Philippines, so we get them the product as well. So both teams can be photographing, videoing, and producing a video for us.
Okay, so the basic premise, you have a big shipment. Let's pretend it's a full container, a 20-foot container of stuff.
Yep.
Obviously, you're not air shipping over a 20-foot container.
No.
20-foot container is going to take probably 45 days
to
get everything cleared. Air shipment's probably going to take 4 to 5 days. So
exactly. So we air ship over a case or whatever, and the rest of it goes in the container. And so that saves us a full 30 days or 35 days of time. If we would have had to wait for that to show up and then start doing something, it's significant. Yeah.
So that's basically 30 days to actually get these listings ready. That's kind of your time deadline right there, 30 days.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so you mentioned influencers. What are you doing with influencers?
Yeah, so this is something that we've had a love-hate relationship with over time. And we're currently in the love part of this because we figured out a new way of approaching this than we used to. So we used to use a service like FameBit, FameBit, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And which is basically a platform of influencers. It's a way to interface with influencers that are looking to get money or compensation in some way for promoting your product or service or company or whatever it might be. So we used to go on FameBit and we would list, say something like, we have this new product coming out. We really want you to do an unboxing and demo of it. And then they would give us a proposal, how much they're going to charge for that. And we would look at the size of their channel and kind of determine what we were willing to pay for it. And what I found is very few of the influencers that we worked with in that capacity, and there were some that worked out well, but very few really had like our best interest at heart, I think, is like a most polite way to put it. Our interests were certainly not aligned in the way that I really wanted. So what we started doing, and it's a lot more labor intensive, but it's been working really well, and this is something that our Philippines team helps with, we'll type in a search on YouTube. So one of the products we just launched recently was some watercolor brush pens. So for instance, it's like how to blend with watercolor brush pens, how to paint with watercolor brush pens, how to use like all these like how-to type searches. And the people that come up in results are really the ones that you want to be targeting, right? Because like they really understand that product and that niche already. Same thing for tactical gear. Like we would use like how to pack a bug out bag or things to bring on your hike, or these types of searches where people are already subject matter experts on that particular niche, and they're probably actually interested in your product. So getting the product for free is already like enough compensation a lot of times. So they're excited to get even a free $30 product because it's something that they will actually use. And then we put things in the tiers. We break up channels into 3 different tiers. It's and I'd have to go back and look at my notes of exactly what because we've been tweaking this. But let's just say like 0 to 2,500 subscribers, 2,500 to 10,000 subscribers, and like 10,000 plus. And basically, what we've told our VAs is like in the bottom tier, only offer them the product. If they'll take the product for free and produce a video, great, we'll give them the product. If it's in the middle tier, offer them the product and to offer a couple extra of the product as a giveaway for their audience. And again, if they're already producing content for that particular niche, their audience is also going to be interested in that product, and that helps the channel. The person that's running that channel is happy to be able to offer that giveaway because they can say like you have to subscribe in order to be eligible. You have to leave a comment or something like along those lines. So that helps them and it's helpful to us. Yeah. And then the last tier, the bigger players, will offer them basically anything from our catalog. We'll just tell them, pick everything you want from our store, anything you want from our store, and we'll kind of evaluate. Like it's sometimes they're kind of hoggish, but most of the time they're pretty reasonable. They'll pick 3-5 things. We'll offer them some giveaways. And so basically that's the way that we work that. And just as a quick aside, usually about 1 out of 10 of these videos produces a relationship with someone that we can use on an ongoing basis for other types of video content. We've been working behind the scenes on producing content that we can resell like under our name or use as a part of marketing collateral in other ways. And we will pay them a couple $100 per video to produce that stuff over time for us. It's typically smaller YouTubers, but that stuff can become really valuable as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that too. That's something in my new business, off-roading. Off-roading products and 4x4 products, there's a lot of passionate people and they have these clubs. And so over the last year or so, I've been trying to build relationships with some fanatical fans who are willing, hey, just give me some free products and sure, I'll take some photos and some videos.
They have the 4x4, they have the winch, they have, all this stuff that's hard for you to create a set for. Plus, like they're good at doing video, right? They're already doing that in their own as their career or hobby.
Their hobby, yeah.
Yeah, so they're probably better at it than either one of us are ever going to be, and it produces like really great content.
Amazing free content, yeah. And I think everybody can do that. Whether you're selling garlic presses or camera gear or whatever it is that you're selling, you're going to have some fanatical fans. Keep an eye out for them, and maybe you can get some free stuff from them just in exchange for free products. Okay, so moving on. We talked about setting up our PPC for Amazon, setting up Facebook. I think a couple things we didn't mention is headline ads and product listing ads on Amazon.
Yep. So we don't typically do the product listing ads right out of the gate. I'll talk about that as a little aside here in a second. But if you have at least 3 like items, that's the minimum for doing headline search ads. We will set up headline search ads as a part of this. So like, we're just releasing some gloves for our tactical brand, and there's 3 sizes, so that's enough to be able to do a headline search ad.
A headline search ad requires 3 products.
Minimum of 3, yeah. For our watercolor brush pens, we have the brush pens themselves, and then there's also 24 individual colors of refills. So that is enough to produce a headline search ad. We also had paper. So we have the headline search ad is the pens, the paper, and like one of the refill bottles. And when they click through, There's like 26 things on that particular ad. It's the pens at the top and then paper, and then we show all the refills. They work really, really well. What we'll do is we'll add the product listing ads at a later date. The best data on which products to target on product listing ads come out of your automated sponsored product ad campaign. So once you start running those for a couple of weeks, you can download that report. And what you'll see in the automated campaigns is a ton of ASINs in there. And those are ones that are converting well, and those become product listing ads. And we probably already have an article about this or a podcast. If not, we'll do one in the future. But that's kind of another whole can of worms for that.
Yeah, and I guess the downside with product listing ads right now, Amazon kind of closed the loophole before where you could get product listing ads through having a Vendor Express account. Mm-hmm. They've closed that loophole, so unfortunately, if you're not in the AMS backend right now, it's pretty tough to get in unless you have a Vendor Central account. But hopefully, I think they're going to open that up soon, just like they have headline ads. So
I've heard rumors that that's coming very soon.
Yes, yeah. So it might not be open right now as you're listening to this podcast, but might be in the future. So hopefully, this does become relevant for you at some point. Okay, so I think the listing is done now. Nothing more. You're just waiting now on your products to arrive from China.
Right.
Correct? So, anything else that we would add to?
I think that's about it. So, I mean, yeah, once the products do arrive from China, what we'll do, it depends on how long you've been selling on Amazon, how much you've seen this experience. But when you send inventory into Amazon, when it first arrives, it's not fully checked in. So, like, if you do have it for sale at that time, it'll say available on XYZ date, usually somewhere between 3 to 7 days in the future. That will like crush your conversion rate. So what we don't want to have happen is have the thing available for sale until when you look in your inventory dashboard in Seller Central that we see hundreds of units available for actual sale. And once we see that, that's when we'll change the start selling date to the current date and actually launch on that date.
Yeah, don't you love it when Amazon, you ship in 300 units and they sit in reserve for the next 3-4 weeks? So yeah, make sure.
Hashtag sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So make sure that your inventory is actually available for purchase.
Yeah.
Okay, so launch day.
Yeah, launch
What's
day.
your strategy? Your products are now live. You haven't turned on the switch now because you changed that start selling date to some arbitrary date in the future. I guess first thing is that you are going to make that start date now.
Yeah, we'll make the date today, or a lot of times it'll be the next day. So typically we try to have our launch day be on a Monday. That's what we found to be just the best day for us. Weekends always for us on Amazon are slower than a weekday. And we want to try to produce consistent sales over a 10-day period or a 14-day period. And if we start on a Monday, then we really only have to do that over one weekend. So we try to start on a Monday for that reason. The other reason we'll start on a Monday is we're all in the office. Like everyone's around that Monday through Friday. So if there's anything that we want to correct or fix or address, we have 5 days to be able to handle that. So we'll typically, like on a Sunday night, set the date for the next day. When we come in Monday morning, we get started with like our launch sequence, which we're going to be talking about here now.
All right. So first thing you do you send out an email? Do you, what else do we have here? Do you turn on your Facebook marketing? What's the first thing that you do?
It's sometimes a little bit different for each brand, but in general, what we're trying to do, again, the concept is to try to produce equal results over a 10-day period or 14-day period. If we can do it over 14 days, we certainly try to do that. So we're going to look at the assets we have for the brand and kind of map that out and try to space that out evenly. So it almost always is going to start with an email because we have pretty big email lists for all of our brands.
And just before you do that, your purpose for doing 10 to 14 days and not just one day, one massive hit.
As I mentioned before with this rolling moving average, it's really important to be able to produce results over a period of time. When we first started doing this concept, we would launch and we'd have this huge spike of 2, 3, 4, 500 sales in one day, and we would never rank. Like we would just, it was a great feeling. We'd have the new #1 bestseller badge. We'd have like this awesome BSR ranking, and it was a cool feeling for a little bit.
Day.
Yeah, and then it was just like things would tail off, and we never ultimately would rank well, and it was disconcerting, obviously, in that situation. And then at some point, I don't know exactly what the aha moment is. I'd have to kind of think really hard about what happened. But I think it was when we were trying to resurrect a product that was an older product that wasn't doing very well. And we started offering a coupon. So we were running some Facebook ads to a landing page, offering 25% off if you give us your email address. And we were producing, 4, 5, 6 sales per day for that product over a long period of time. And all of a sudden, after like 20, 30 days, I saw kind of like a hockey stick growth on our rankings curve. And it just kind of dawned on me that this rolling moving average thing existed, and started doing some more experimenting. And once I figured that out, I was like, okay, when we actually launch, we're going to want to produce spaced out consistent results and not just a spike. Because if you throw up a spike and then throw up a goose egg or a 2 or a 3 on the board the following day, it just isn't going to help with the rankings. So what I see happen when we do it the way that we're doing it now, where we consistently space it out, somewhere between like day 5 and 10, and we use Select for this, where we have all of our keywords loaded in, all of a sudden would just pop up on the map, on the graph of where we're ranking. And it's not on the first page, but we won't be ranking at all, 0 rankings. And somewhere between 5 and 10, it's bink, we're there for we'll see it's kind of light up on the dashboard basically of that screen that Select has. And then in the days following that, it's just a straight line up. We're just shooting up on those rankings. And we want to eventually get to the first page for those keywords that we're really going after. And that takes somewhere usually between 10 and 14 days. So by the end of the second week, which is pretty darn quick, we're oftentimes on the first page for really competitive keywords by using this strategy.
Okay. So you're turning on your email, and I think what you're about to allude to is that you're going to email to your email list in segments to avoid this one-day spike.
Exactly, yeah. So what we've done is we've broken up our email list into blocks of 5 or 3, depending on the brand.
And how are you breaking these blocks up? Are you doing it at the time of subscription? Or are you just simply manually doing it, downloading your entire email list and separating them into different groups?
It depends on the email service provider. So with Enclavio, we actually use the time zone kind of as a trick to break it up into group 1, 2, and 3. Within Actionetics, when we were using that for through ClickFunnels and for our tactical brand, we actually had to download the list and then break it up in them manually, because there was no way to do it otherwise. Otherwise, there was going to be a situation where people were receiving the email more than once that had been part of multiple lists. It's kind of a little bit wonky the way that platform works. So it's going to depend on the email service provider that you're using, what you want to do with this, but that's how we've handled it ourselves.
That's a nice little hack. So most email service providers are going to intake the user's time zone when they subscribe. And so basically you're saying, okay, Eastern time zone, we're going to send on Monday. Mountain time zone, we're going to send on Tuesday. Pacific, we're going to send on Wednesday.
Exactly.
So
right.
a cheap little hack to separate your email into 3 lists or however many lists that you want.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so you email that into, you're aiming for 1 email per week for 2 weeks.
So what we'll do, let's say it's broken up into 5 parts, just for simplicity's sake. So
a 5-part email.
So we'll have 20%, 20% blocks. So block A gets sent out on Monday, that 20%, then block B on Tuesday, obviously then through Friday. As I mentioned, the weekends usually aren't that strong for us, so we'll go through and do a reminder to those 5 blocks of emails the following week, because 30% open rate, 25% open rate, whatever it might be. So we'll target non-opens, and I think that's actually just non-opens, or maybe on that particular one we're targeting all of them. I have to go back and look at that one, but regardless, we're sending a reminder email the second week to make sure that that message is coming through again. And we obviously see another spike in sales based off of that as well.
All right, so your Facebook marketing, are you turning this on, I guess, concurrently with your email marketing?
Yeah, so all this stuff kind of happens in conjunction and concurrently with each other. So obviously emails are going out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, when we're on launch day on that Monday, we're going to launch an ad to our fans. And if you remember, I talked about this video earlier that we're going to use as a part of enhanced brand content and on our Amazon listing. Well, that video makes a really great Facebook ad. And we were thinking about that as we create the video. So we're making a video that not only complies with Amazon's enhanced brand content and video policy, but that would also make a really great Facebook ad. That would also make a good video on YouTube. That would make a good video on a landing page. So there's some things you want to be thinking about when you're making that video that helps make it good for all those purposes. And that's what we do. So when we first launched the video ad, Facebook ad, we target our fans. And one of the things we talk about in other parts of EcomCrew is obviously building a Facebook audience. And we have about 80,000 people now for color, as a for instance. And so we'll target that ad to fans first. Number one, they're probably the most apt or willing to buy anyway because they're our fans. But the other thing is that they really help with the social proof of that post. So they're going to be more apt to interact, to like the post, to comment on the post, etc. So we let that social proof build for the first day or two, depending again on the brand and how much traction we have. And then we start advertising to other audiences. And what we're doing at the same time that we're doing this is we're monitoring like our daily sales. And the great thing about Facebook is you can turn up or down your ad spend really easily, especially if you have a large audience to advertise into. So throughout the rest of that 10 to 14 day period, we're picking additional audiences to advertise to and ratcheting up or ratcheting down the spend per day to also try to help keep a consistent number of sales. It doesn't have to be like exactly 52 sales per day. I mean, we're trying to be within a window of, let's say, between 40 and 60 or something to that range. But we want to make sure that we're keeping up the pace of that. So some audiences are going to perform better than others. The downside here to those Facebook ads is you can't really track them. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a leap of faith. You're kind of spending money not knowing exactly which ones are producing the best results. But this is an investment that we're willing to make in our business because we know the value of ranking on the first page for Amazon way outweighs the spend that we're putting into the Facebook spend. So that's something we're considering.
And you're basically using Amazon affiliate tracking ads from Amazon associates to at least get some broad sense of how many sales you are getting. So it's not a total shot in the dark, but at least you have
the problem
data.
Is, I mean, so what we're doing, the Facebook ad goes to a landing page. We haven't really kind of talked about that yet,
Yes.
but also all of our emails go to the same landing page, and Facebook ads go into this landing page. And we're going to talk about ManyChat here in a second. It also goes off to this landing page. And we use one landing page for all of this throughout this process because at some point in the process, we're going to stop sending the traffic to Amazon and divert it to our own store. So we want to have a central place where we can make one change of a link on the button to go to our own store versus going off to Amazon, because these emails and especially the Facebook ads have a fairly decent shelf life, definitely a lot more than 2 weeks. You'll get people that are commenting, et cetera, on the post, and eventually the post kind of continues to trickle in traffic over time. And eventually we just don't want the traffic going to Amazon anymore. We want to get it kind of going back to our store. But we do use an affiliate link on that landing page. And we do have a decent idea that the landing page is producing X number of sales. We just don't know if it's email or ManyChat or the ads that's producing more sales than the other. The only way to get around that would be to produce 3 different versions of the landing page, which is more work than we want to do, because it just what we find is the more touch points, the more things we have to remember to do, the more chance that we make an error, and we want to try to avoid that.
And over time, I guess you'll get a sense of what percentage of your customers will come from ManyChat, what percentage come through email, what percentage come through Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, so we only got a few minutes here. People are, I guess, on their way to the office. Their commute hopefully is coming to an end. So let's try to wrap this up in the next few minutes. Okay, you mentioned ManyChat. Oh, it's a great plug. Check out the EcomCrew ManyChat course.
The whole reason that this video and this podcast even came to be is because we want to talk about this as a part of our ManyChat course, which is now out. So you can go check that out at ecomcrew.com/premium. But ManyChat's like a really important component of all of this, because we've now got, at the time of recording this video, over 50,000 people company-wide on our ManyChat list, something like 36,000 of which are for Color It. So what we're going to do there, we talk about in the course that you only want to send a broadcast at like really opportune moments. And this is going to be one of them. You're launching a brand new product. This is like the key to the rest of your success maybe, or your quarter at least. You probably have a big investment in the product. This is the time to utilize that ManyChat tool shed or tool in the tool shed. So the first thing is we also break this up into 5 parts, because at 36,000 people on our list, if we sent out that message to all of them at once, it would completely overwhelm our staff. So we break that up by putting a tag on them in the 5 bite-sized chunks of relatively the same size.
And what you mean by overwhelming your staff, in your experience, about 10% of people that get a message from you on Messenger, they kind of think it's a real live person. They're trying
Right.
to interact with that person.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's 36,000 people, that's 3,600 responses. That's a lot of stuff to respond to. So you break that up over 5 days, it makes it more manageable.
Cool. Okay, so you're sending out that mini chat. Anything else that you're doing in terms of, I guess, marketing blasts?
Well, we did talk about the influencers. One thing I do want to mention, we do try to get them to release their videos and on their marketing calendar. We'll work with them and try to get one per day over a 10-day period. Yeah. This is a lot harder than it sounds because YouTubers don't necessarily listen. They want to be the first one to release a lot of times, first of all. So sometimes they'll release it before the product's available. Very frustrating, even though we tell them not to do that. Or they see the product is live and they put it out immediately because they know that the sooner they put it out, the better chance that they're going to be the one to rank for that product is someone searching for it. But for the people that are nice enough to listen to us, we try to space that out over 10 days. And you'd be surprised. Like the YouTube channels that we pick, one of the things I didn't talk about during that influencer selection process, we're looking at other videos they're producing in their channel. So it's not like, oh, they have 10,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers, like we want to work with them because of that. We look at the number of upvotes versus downvotes they're getting on individual videos and the number of comments that they're getting on individual videos. And the typical people that we work with are ones that have like a hyper engaged audience. And because of that, it actually produces a decent number of sales. So we find that to be quite helpful.
Okay, and a couple things, I guess I'm just going to quickly summarize maybe a couple things that we forgot. Stage 2, you got your products all here. First thing, at least I do, is turn on Amazon's early reviewer program. $60, go enroll it. It's within your promotions tab. $60, you can get up to 5 free reviews for a new product. So best $60 you'll ever spend. Another thing that you can do, this is a whole podcast and blog topic on its own, but Amazon giveaways, totally TOS compliant, and you can get a bunch of not free, you actually have to pay for the products, but a lot of initial traction, and hopefully through those giveaways you're also going to get a lot of people who go on to buy your product. So Amazon giveaways, we have a podcast on that and a blog post on that.
Highly recommend checking that out. It's been probably the most effective thing we've added to this sequence over the last 6 to 12 months. It's actually been shocking at how well it works, and especially if you have a product that people like really want. The general public wants, it really, really works well. If you have something that's more niche, it doesn't seem to work quite as well. But some of the things like our gel pens, for instance, we'll give away 10 units and get over 100 sales. I mean, it's really pretty incredible.
Yeah, my experience, they're either a huge flop or an absolute huge hit, and when they're a huge hit, you can really propel your products quickly up the search rankings. Okay, so the last thing. Okay, now we're done with Amazon. Of course, we're not done with Amazon, but now we can actually...
You're never done with Amazon.
Now we can actually turn on our other channels, and we might not have made this clear in the podcast that our purpose in this is to really propel our sales on Amazon in the beginning, because Amazon, that early velocity really matters. On your own website, it doesn't really matter if you have like an immediate surge of velocity over 5 or 10 days. Shopify obviously doesn't care. Google doesn't really care as much. So that's been our purpose all throughout here, is to get that initial surge all focused on Amazon. But now you've at least hopefully you've shown that surge over 10 to 14 days on Amazon. Now is the time to turn on your listings on Shopify. If you're selling on eBay, turn on your eBay listings. If you're selling on Etsy, turn on your Etsy listings.
Yep, exactly right. So, it might seem crazy to you that, we're spending, because it costs all this, we're giving up 15% to send all the traffic to Amazon. So it certainly costs money, or we're taking money out of our pocket or leaving money on the table, however you want to look at it. By sending all this traffic off to Amazon, we could send the traffic right to our own store. The reason that we do this is because we're long-term thinkers, and we know the extrinsic value of ranking on the number one on Amazon or on the first page for Amazon for a competitive term, and being able to do that in a white hat way like we're explaining here. That has a certain value to us, and we can look at that and we know what that number is, and whatever money we're leaving on the table over here because we didn't sell it through our Shopify store pales in comparison to the value of the Amazon ranking. So like once it's ranking on Amazon, obviously we're going to turn our attention back to our own Shopify store. It's another great opportunity to email our list again and let them know, hey, this is back. This is actually in stock now at colorit.com or with one of our other brands, whatever it might be. And again, it's just another great excuse because a lot of people don't buy on Amazon. That's actually something we hear a lot more frequently now. Is like, I refuse to buy on Amazon. It's actually kind of crazy. When we launch a new product, we hear this quite a bit. So we'll email at that point and say, hey, it's on color right now. We'll switch all the landing pages that we were talking about earlier. That link will then go to the listing on our Shopify store, and we'll continue to run Facebook ads at that point. But now we can optimize for purchases instead of optimizing for engagement on the post, which is going to get or clicks. We can now optimize for purchases because now the pixel's on our site and we know a lot better what's going on with that, and we can now focus on running ads to that product, which typically is pretty effective for us.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think that was about 45 to 50 minutes.
A little bit longer than normal, but hopefully you guys are
into. Yeah, hopefully you guys are into the office now. The rush hour commute was not too bad. That wraps this up. We will have a blog post to accompany this at some point, which will put things a little bit more visually to kind of connect with you people who marinate things better in your brain than in your eyes. So until the next episode, happy selling.
And we'll talk to you then.